Yes, everybody. Welcome to another show and welcome to my bestie buddies. We've got Sean. Hello, mate. Good evening.
All right, mate. How you doing?
I'm fabulous. And our special guest this evening, Luke, the Chelsea fan.
Hello, mate.
Yet again, another amazing win for the boys in there. Absolutely stoked. Really happy they came down to our neck of the woods. And we're going to have a little look at that. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go in. We're going to have a look at some of the stats, look at now and look at before, because it was quite an interesting game, I think, and it was quite memorable. We're also going to have a look at a few little other bits. We're going to have a little look back in time at some of our favourite parts and some questions, if I'm right, Sean. You're going to have some questions for me today, mate.
Yeah, just some memories going back over things that happened on this day for Arsenal, going back in time. The club's got a rich history, as for those of you that watch Melvin's show, which is on tomorrow night, so make sure you watch that.
Absolutely.
It's all about stuff that has happened before and how some of it actually seems quite relevant to today. But yeah, I'll ask you what you remember about some of it, and we'll have a bit of a laugh along the way.
That'd be brilliant. And then, of course, we're going to look at the upcoming game with Fulham this weekend, which I think is actually going to be a big one for us that we need to kind of keep an eye on, because these guys are playing well. And we're going to have a look at, I would like to just touch on, if we get some time, just some of the other games that have gone on, because I think we've seen some amazing football this weekend. I don't know if you all agree, boys.
Yeah, well, we also want to talk about that, and we want to have a look at some of the lads out on the road at the moment who are see how they're doing, and given with what we'll come to about Saliba, how the loan system actually works, and if some of these guys are doing well, we want to keep an eye on them and what they're doing.
Yeah. If not, sell them at a good rate. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
One thing now, I want to just touch on something really quickly, because, we're all about fun. We're all about banter. We're all about actually sharing things with each other here. But I came across really quite a sad tweet today. It really was a sad tweet about a fellow Arsenal fan that was attacked because he didn't agree with the general consensus. And I want to say, as a fan, and all of us as fans, we stand for, one voice for our Arsenal team. We don't care about colour, race, sex, or gender. And you know what? If you're going to attack people because of their views, really, I don't think we need you or want you within the club. But I wanted to open out. This forum for us is about expression. It's about everybody being able to say what you want. So I just wanted to put it out there to everybody on here that, violence is not the answer. If you do have a point and you want to argue with us all day long, please come on. We're here for it. And so I wanted to put that out there. Really sad for me. But on a positive note, get in there, the Arsenal. Come on, North London, yet again. 3 goals against Bournemouth, mate. What are we talking about? What are we saying?
Well, I mean, wow. What a performance by some of the players. I think one of the great things, one of the most positive things, which I think I would have been concerned about at the start of the season, bringing in good players is always good, but are they going to be like the same faces? And if they don't perform, then, you're going to have a bad day. What it looks like might happen this season, hopefully, is that when the days that Jesus doesn't score or Martinelli doesn't score, then other players are going to pop up and they're going to get on the score sheet. Sure. The 2 goals from Odegaard, one of the complaint may be a strong word, but I'd say one of the complaints maybe about him is that he doesn't score enough goals. Popped up with 2, right position, right time. Also the Saliba goal. I mean, it reminded me a lot of Vieira against United all them years ago, just from the other side of that kind of looping over the goalkeeper. Yeah. And wow, what a strike! Left foot, weaker foot, and an assist by Xhaka, which gives him 2 assists already, which is the same amount as what he got all of last season.
Odegaard stealing the ball, stealing it of Jesus' foot to put it in. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, what was that stat that you threw out the other day? What's that stat you was telling me about earlier? Come on.
Premier League games on, let me have a look. It was Premier League goals from open play Lacazette had 30 games and only scored 2, and yet Jesus had scored 2 goals in 2 games. And then
2 goals better than I was. Well, I'm not going to go over old ground, but 2 goals, 2 games, absolutely. Good point, Sean. I think you made a great point there. Like, what happens when Jesus is ill, or he's off, or he's injured, or whatever the situation where he's getting to burnout? We're scoring goals. We're scoring goals again. 7. So last year, Disney Prince got 7 goals. That's it. Yeah, he's off and running 3 games in. 3 games in, we're top of the league. Yeah.
Was 3 assists for Jesus as well.
Yes. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, which is a big deal in today's football. Just a quick one. Cliff Soccer Zone, who I actually spoke to earlier today, he's come on. Says, Trusty has been killing it at Birmingham, making us American Gooners proud. We'll come to it a bit later. We've got a bit of news on Austin Trusty and seeing how he's getting on over at Birmingham City. So we will come back to you, Cliff.
Yeah. Well, and welcome, mate, and well done. Thank you for taking the time out to come and see us. I mean, it's amazing. I heard everybody. Who was it? It was again, Talk Sports doing their usual. I kind of turned around and said, "Oh yeah, Bournemouth were scared of us. They were scared." Well, no, actually, you know what? I'm going to do is I'm going to share up something. I'm going to share something up, right? So if we look at this Bournemouth formation and the way it actually looks on there, they absolutely moved to. What I'm trying to say, they absolutely were trying to flood the midfield. So if you look at the way they're actually working, hi Melvin, they're actually trying that. So the whole piece is what they're trying to do is stifle us in midfield, because they realise the amount of pace and drive coming in between the actual teams itself. And you look at that formation and the way it all kind of came together. It didn't work. It just didn't work because, again, I think the pace, the movement of the ball, the way that we actually moved around, it was absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely.
Well, they gave themselves no outlet in the end. I mean, to be fair to their strikers, they got no service, not really, because at the end of the day, I mean, like showed with that graphic, they tried to flood in front of the back three, but their wing backs just couldn't get out. Hence why the overlap from Ben White. It was becoming like shooting fish in a barrel in the end, because they couldn't get organised quick enough, and that's more to the sort of positive of Arsenal than the detriment of Bournemouth. I mean, they got a bit of a shoe in the week before from Manchester City, and probably heads still spinning, I would have said. But I think they would have thought they could have played a home game a bit more comfortably and a bit more attacking.
Yes,
but it wasn't plausible in the end. Arsenal were far too quick. And from the 5th minute, when Jesus took that ball out of the air, and wow, what a take what a touch that was. Went past about 4 players, and how long have we been waiting to watch a player do that? How long have been watching sideways passing and unnecessary passing for the sake of passing? Now and again, you just want to see someone run at a player, and he did it. They backed off him. Then they tried to go to him. And the moment they did that let Martinelli overlap. And that was it. They were cut in half. I mean, Martinelli probably should have scored, but there was Odegaard. And then, like you say, he took the ball off of Jesus' foot, which Jesus, I think he's going to be looking out for that over his shoulder. But he won't mind. If the goal's going in, the goal's going in. And 3-0 away from home anywhere in the Premier League is no mean feat.
No, it's interesting. I mean, Luke and I, we were to go watching the game. How did you feel, Luke, when you watched that first part go on?
I think it's interesting because there are back in like 2 years ago, or you look a year ago, and yes, Arsenal missed top 4, but they haven't got the penetration. I know we're only 3 games in, right? But the penetration that Jesus is causing within the first 15 minutes, which is for me the most critical point within a game. He's actually driven Martinelli to press and push up. The tracking back is so much different. They're not so lethargic. You got Aubameyang, who never used to track back. You had a Lacazette, who used to sit as your false 9 and like to sit there and just feed off. Jesus does it all. He's like a Bobby Firmino, but younger.
Yeah.
And he couldn't, he couldn't do it yesterday because they lost to United. Anyway,
we'll talk about that.
But yeah, when you've got a team with such confidence and such belief and drive, with 3 games winning streak now, you start teams like that. They start to look at it and go, right, what can we do? What can they do? They have to go 5 at the back, or you've got a bit more confidence team that go, what, we're going to give it to them. They go a bit more attacking, but then what are they going to do in the defensive half when you have Martinelli, Saka, Jesus, Odegaard pressing now?
Yeah, and I totally agree. When we see the likes of Smith Rowe coming on, when you've got Vieira coming, Marquinhos coming, potentially Neto or Pino coming along, or am I thinking of wine there? Coming in and being part of that. It's all about that change and that pace that's actually going in. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. There's a few more to go on because I've got to talk about Saliba. I've just got to talk about it. I know everybody's been talking about it, but it's Adam-esque with that goal. But I want to share something actually with everybody. And it's really important because I want to show you the Bournemouth team from 2019 and why this is important. First off, Aaron Ramsdale was in goal. And apparently, and if I remember back, and apparently the battle that was going on between was absolutely huge between us and Bournemouth at that time. So a very flat kind of team in comparison to what we saw. So, if you look at the way that they set up, totally different, trying to actually compress the play, bring that into the middle, and actually trying to where it's a bit flatter here. Now, Aubameyang at the last minute scored that goal to make it 1-1. But it was actually, Bournemouth was actually Arteta's first game in charge of Arsenal. It's interesting, we look at that. When we look at the team, though, if I just take you through and we look at the actual team that was there, oh my lord, that's the team that actually played. You look at that formation, right? What's interesting, though, is you look at the formation that we actually had, exactly the same. So you can see, going back to from the beginning of his game, from the beginning of his process, as we talk about, follow the process, right? As we all go into it, we actually look at it. Arteta started with the roots, and I still can't believe it. I look at that you've got Sokratis, you've got Maitland-Niles in there, Reece Nelson, these types of players that are kind of on the fringe now, moving out. We actually had Mustafi playing, which is absolutely unbelievable. That sits in there. We managed to scrape a 1-1. Fast forward to today, first game. Ramsdale's in goal. Which again, we had to double check. So Luke and I had a bit of an argument this afternoon about it, and I said no, Ramsdale's definitely in goal. But you look at that, and that's a really interesting point. It's just been put up actually. It's a few seasons ago. Hold on, let's put that up actually. So a few seasons ago, Bournemouth wasn't able to rough us up, and now we're able to handle teams and try and rough them up. But that's a good point. So let's have a quick look at the stats, shall we? So if we look at the stats that go in, actually it's the other way around. Yeah, yellows were the same. We were actually roughing them up. 16 fouls that were going in. And I would have agreed with you, Cliff. I would have actually turned around and said, you know what, he's actually got a point. But when I look at it, it was such a horrible kind of game at the time that when you look at the stats, the accuracies, and everything else, it was we were the actual aggressors in all of this. So it was something that actually Arteta, I believe, was instilling at the very beginning of the process, and the reason why he's got rid of all those other people that are hanging on. But we look at the game now where we are, still high up on the fouls. Less yellow cards and Bournemouth kind of got in there, but you can start to see the interplays. We can start to see the statistics and starting to grow within this thing. We can actually physically start to see the way that this formation, with the right players in place, actually has a winning mentality. And how good, boys, does it feel to be 3 games in and 3 wins into that, rather than 3 losses? Absolutely out of this world.
I mean, if you go back to that stat again quickly there, Steve.
Yes, mate.
I think what Cliff might mean by it is if you have a look at the aerials one, the clearances, the interceptions and the tackles, Arsenal much more predominant. And before, that would have been where it would have been what would have been seen as the soft underbelly of the club, which is where, it's not it's not the same anymore. They're a mentally more tougher side, which is something that I wanted to come to. Like, one of the reasons I think that there is a big difference in what's going on right now is because they are mentally tougher, and you get a mental still from losing that you can't get from anywhere else. And that narrow miss of what happened last season, I think, is in no short reason as to why they are mentally stronger. Bringing in players that have been there and done it, that's another reason for being mentally stronger. But also, you've got to look at some of the history of it. So, for example, we all know that Arteta cut his teeth by learning under Pep Guardiola.
Yeah.
Now, Pep learned what he knows at Barcelona. And if you look in his playing days, what you've got is him playing under Johan Cruyff. And one of the phrases that Cruyff used to use is, you play football with your head, your legs are there to help. And he strongly believed in the mental aspect of football. He learned that from Rinus Michels, who was the famous Dutch and Ajax coach that took him to the World Cup final, won the European Championships. Now, what happened during Pep's career is Frank Rijkaard came from AC Milan and went to Barcelona after Ajax, and he took over and started what we now know as the process of what happened to Barcelona and the way that they play, which is now become a global way of playing football. Now, Rijkaard came from Milan, where they had something, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, called the Mind Room.
No.
Now, the Mind Room was started in 1986 by a guy called Dr. Di Michaelis. Now, what it was he was an ex-karate champion who basically was he was very top of his field, and he was taught by these Japanese grandmasters. But the problem is when he came to doing these tournaments against these grandmasters, he would lose. Now, he would never understand why, because physically he had everything to beat them. But because they were his heroes, he mentally couldn't get past that. And it was then he realized that the mental aspect of sport is so important. So he approached Milan, that great Milan side that we all know from the late 80s, early 90s, with Van Basten, Gullit, Baresi, Rijkaard, Maldini. And he basically made something called the Mind Room, which was for players and what they feared about football and everyday life, what they were scared of in the next game. Because the whole idea was that players who can play without fear will always play better. Because in terms of being fit and in terms of being skillful, those are things that you should be already. You know, the mental aspect of it, of not being scared about how to play and having a freedom of trusting everyone around you, that is when you go to that next level. And that's when you get teams like Manchester City. That's when you get teams like AC Milan of the early 90s and Barcelona of the mid 2000s. It's that next level. And that's what Arteta, I think, has been all about. And I think the All or Nothing documentary shows up a lot of that. And I think what you're seeing now is the result of that. They all look happy. And now I know, obviously winning football makes you happy, but they all look like they're enjoying playing football. And I think it makes a massive, massive difference. And I think they've overcome some mental hurdles that last year's disappointments have caused them to do.
Yeah, I think I agree totally. I agree totally with what you're saying, but I just think the other flip to that is actually it's not bad to lose a few bits. It's not bad to actually lose out. It hardens you. You can see that in a team. It's go through the process. It goes in. So look, what do you think? Because you're a football player. You play. You were semi-pro at one point. Where do you see it?
I think the other perspective that everyone's got to realise is that Arsenal has one of the youngest squads, if not the youngest squad.
The youngest squad.
So looking at top four, even though you were 8 for 2 years in a row, you were asking a lot. Yes, you had the chance, but you were asking a lot. You had a massive chance. But look, with the Bournemouth game, you had Saliba, who had 100% completion in passes. That was a match stat that I wanted to say. He had 100% match passes that were completed. But look, as a footballer, morale matters so much. Whether that be on the pitch or off the pitch, it has to be there. Otherwise, you're not playing as well. You're not gelling.
Yeah.
And then, you start to think, well, what's the point? And,
So-
and I think Arteta takes people underneath the wing. You don't see a lot of managers do that. I think Klopp and Pep do it, and they're about the only managers that I've seen, praise their players there and then, appreciate the fans and everyone there and then. And I think it's a massive difference when you've got Bukayo Saka, who's only 20 years old.
Yeah. I don't think Klopp is actually praising his players right now, but we'll get on to that. Don't worry about that. I had to. Right, but yeah, the other part that sits in it, and I think what we need to be is grounded as fans. I'm already seeing people turning around and saying, well, what would happen if we won the Premiership? You're 3 games in, guys. Yeah, we've got a long season ahead of us. Yeah, a long season ahead of us. Everybody is at their peak right now. It's when we get to January time, the end of January, February time. That sort of time is when we can actually start to have that conversation if we're there or thereabouts. So I think the combination is what we're seeing is the mentality, the mindset, the drive. We've got a young team that sits in with a real smattering of experience that sits within it. And I think we've had 2 or 3 years in this process that's helped us. And that's culminated in amazing football and a connection with the fans. And the fans are absolutely 100% connected into what is actually going on. When I look at I want to just touch quickly on the Man United and Liverpool game. I saw Casemiro when he came in. The money they paid for him. It was interesting. I got tweeted the other day about how we spent so much money on players, and yet we spent they spent a huge amount on one player who's coming to the end of his career. So it might be good business. I don't know. I hope it'll turn it around for them. But it was interesting seeing all of those fans protesting outside, hating everybody, hating the Glazers, hating everybody that are doing it. And my view of it is, and it's the same with the Cronkies as well, is I'm not a lover of them, don't get me wrong, but they put their money where their mouths are. The Glazers have done exactly the same, and whether they saddle Man United with debt or not, that's somebody else a lot better qualified for me. But the fans are outside wanting blood for them. When I listened to those fans that went to the Bournemouth game and everybody that we were in the pub with, Luke, we were screaming, absolutely screaming with joy, singing the songs, looking out for the players and actually driving. It's a different mindset, it's a mentality and that connection with the fans that make life. It just makes it so much better. I'm so looking forward to the game coming up. So, Sean, who are the stand-up players for you, though? For me, I mean, I've got my views, but who are the stand-up players that you saw against Bournemouth when we look at those statistics that we've been showing there?
Saliba has to be the standout. I mean, it's I've got a few stats about him here, which is, played the full 90, clean sheet, a goal of 1 shot, 1 on target, 1 goal, 75 100% accurate passes, which is the first time an Arsenal defender has done that in the Premier League since 2004. 83 touches, 2 successful.
Hang on. Let me wind that back a sec. Let me wind that back. Say that once more.
75 accurate passes, or 100%.
100%. You're kidding me.
And that is the first time that an Arsenal defender has done that since 2004.
Whoa. 75 passes on the button.
Yep.
How old is he again? Like, he's like 7 or something, isn't it?
He is 21, I think.
21.
I believe so.
Yeah. In the Premiership.
Yeah.
Okay,
so he also 83 touches, 2 successful long balls, 1-2 out of his 3 ground duels, 1-2 headers, which is where he's supposed to be a bit weaker. 1-2 tackles, 2 clearances, 2 interceptions, 5 recoveries, made 1 foul. Yeah, perfect performance. I haven't seen many defenders give a performance like that for a long time. He's calm.
Yes, sir.
And I think that is what helps. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're not really going to know until he comes up against Haaland or he comes up against Mo Salah or, players that are maybe on form. Yeah, Son. Yeah. But I mean, we won't know, but given what I saw of him last year at Marseille, where he won Young French Player of the Year, which, by the way, only 4 defenders in their history have ever won, ever since the start of that being an award. And also, he had the most amount of accurate passes per match on average, apart from Eric Garcia of Barcelona in the entire of the top 5 European leagues. So the stats have all been there for the last year. He played 40 games last year. You know, he had no shortage.
Million. 25 million, yeah? 25 million.
27.
27.
Yeah.
Okay.
From Saint Etienne.
So let's just wow. Okay, so we look at the stats like that. So Jamie O'Hara, right? And guys, I'm going to say it again. Every week, I'm tweeting Jamie O'Hara on a regular. So everybody, please tweet Jamie O'Hara. Tell him to come on the show. Because he's the one that turned around and said, if you've loaned him twice, get rid of him. Right? He's the one that said that. So, Jamie, come on. Come on the show. Talk to us and tell us why you think that's the case. Because I'm telling you right now, you've got Man United playing 90-odd million, I think it was. 90 million for, what's his name? Casemiro? Is it 90 million?
70.
It is 60, but 80 overall with bonuses.
So 80 million for a guy who's at the end of his career. We've paid 25 million for a guy that can put 75 shots in the Premiership. And
Real Madrid must be laughing. I mean, how have they done that? Who's paying that for that sort of player?
I mean, he's a good player. Like he's a brilliant player, but
there ain't no doubt about that. But I mean, if you're 30 plus, right, and especially in that particular position of the field, I mean, one of the guys, Derek Brandt here, has said, Man United fools are driving me nuts. Well, okay, here's your moment, Derek, because we're going to have a little chat about it. I don't disagree with Derek, to be honest with you. I mean, last night I was watching it, and I'm not a Liverpool lover by any stretch, as you well know, Steve.
Long-haired or otherwise.
I don't really have dislikes of club. I'm not a Tottenham hater. I'm not anything like that. I love football all over. But because of my age range, I've never really been big on Liverpool because they were so dominant in my sort of first years of loving football. But last night, I kind of wanted them to equalise. And I kind of wanted them to score a winner because I just wanted... It's a bit like watching... something where you've not seen it happen before with United, where I'm like, how bad can it get? I want to see how bad it can get, and I know it's a morbid fascination because I don't really wish anything bad on them, not really, but at the same time, I'm like, they played well in spots last night, but Liverpool were particularly bad. Jadon Sancho's goal was well taken, so it's an individual effort, really. A Rashford goal was well taken, but why they were trying to play a high line I've got no idea. But Liverpool looked particularly bad, and when it showed their subs bench, they looked bare.
Threadbare subs bench. I
mean, Sadio Mane leaving has really left a massive hole in their squad.
Oh, don't start that. You said so again. I'm sure Adam's going to cover it on his show on Thursday, guys. Oh no, he's not going to make it on Thursday. I'm afraid he's at Carfest. No, but it was interesting. And Luke, we were talking about this, weren't we? The vitriol that's coming out about Mane going and stuff like that. But I think if you look at that bench, I mean, I don't know what you think, Luke, but it was absolutely threadbare. We're literally. It felt like Arsenal at the end of the season. Last season, when we had literally nobody there, I mean, I would have got on. That's how bad it was getting.
Yeah, I mean, Klopp's known to have youngsters on the bench because he always likes a bit of experience. Well, to get some experience. But mate, he might as well have chosen them from the under 9s academy because they were that poor. Honestly, I'd rather have McFred on my bench. Do you know what I mean? And they are terrible as well. But look, you can't discredit what United done against Liverpool. Yeah, they're poor, but to do what they've done on the bounce of losing is a big step for Ten Hag and United as a whole. I think people saying they were going to get relegated 3 games in, it's a bit dramatic.
Yeah.
Arsenal in this position last year, and then they were fighting for top 4.
Yeah.
So
the thing is, this is what it looks like when you make consistently bad buys for 2-3 years. Arsenal have been here. Where they are now, Arsenal have been. And it's what happens when you don't accept where you are. When you don't accept that you need to clear the decks and you need to start again, and not just in your first team, but in your under 21s, in your under 18s, in your academies, you need to do everything right. You cannot. There's a sort of a theory that Man City or Liverpool or Chelsea bought the league. You can't buy the league. You can't. Because you can spend as much money as you like. If you buy the wrong people, or you buy the wrong people up and down the hierarchy and triangle of your footballing pyramid within your club, you won't win anything. Yeah. Because it's that deep. The gains are marginal, which Arsenal know all about because of their own experience and the fact that Marginal Gains was born in this country by Arsene Wenger. You have to do everything right. You cannot skip over it by going, I'll tell you what, we'll bring back Ronaldo, which Man City sold them a massive dummy by making them think that he was going to go there. City were never going to buy him. Pep Guardiola would never buy Ronaldo. They were never, ever going to buy him in a million years. But it made United think that they were going to. And United went in there and they bought him. And they went for it hook, line and sinker and got left with... And don't get me wrong, Ronaldo's a great player. There ain't no question about that. But was he what they needed? No, really not. Really not. It was because they needed people that were going to come in, work hard. They needed 2 players for the price that they got Ronaldo for, where they could have actually had 2 backups for what they had there already. But they're acting like kids in sweet shop mentality, where it's like, oh, let's get that one. Oh, I tell you what, we'll deal with that one and we'll bring in something shiny and expensive. Casemiro, he's 30. Look at the signings before this. Ibrahimovic. They're buying clothes horses.
It's a consistent theme, isn't it, with United? You had Cavani, you had Ibrahimovic, now you got Casemiro. They seem to be going, and you had that rumour of Arnautovic. When do you ever see Man United picking out players which
that was
aren't Man United what are supposed to be Man United level?
Yeah, I mean it's material. The way they're acting is very, very material. And you see these clubs that have a lot of money. And if you look at Chelsea, when they acted in a material sense at times, it always failed. So Fernando Torres, look at the money they spent on him.
Yeah.
Kenny Dalglish sold him a dummy.
Look at Mark Hughes when he first went to Man City. He bought absolutely every player he possibly could to try and win the league, and never did it. He couldn't actually do it.
Well, that's why I think that what happened with Arsenal last year on missing out like by a whisker. If you remember when Manchester City lost out by a whisker when Peter Crouch scored for Tottenham and they qualified for 4th and City missed out on 4th, losing at home to Spurs.
Yeah.
That was a turning point for their club. That was the moment where everything changed, where they just went, we're not doing this right. And that's when they started, and that's when everything from top to bottom got changed. And that's the Manchester City that we know today, which I think should bring us on to, did either of you watch the City Newcastle game?
Fantastic game, by the way.
What a game. What a game. What a game. I cannot, and I'm going to put it out there. If anybody that runs this podcast happens to get another Arsenal ticket for the Newcastle game, please, I would love to be there. Please. You know who I'm talking to.
It was a cracking game. It really was a cracking game. It nearly got ruined by a red card that shouldn't have been a red card, but luckily that got overturned, which is one in the eye for people that don't want VAR. Me personally, in the long run, I didn't want VAR, but it's here now. Genie's out of the bottle, so there's no point sort of worrying about it.
Same with bands, though, isn't it, Sean? Stadiums.
No, it's not. No, it's not, because they can be stopped. And they should be stopped.
I don't think they should. I don't
And if you play a musical instrument at a football ground, I'm talking to you. Stop it.
Kazoo's at the next game, mate. That's what we're doing.
It's not okay.
But
It's not. No, you're not. No, I'm not rising to this. I'm not rising to this.
I've got to say, what a game, though. What an absolute
great game.
all-out mental game, like full on. Absolutely brilliant. Really, really. I loved it. I was listening to it, and I took my good lady away. We went to the beach, took the dogs with us, found a little pub that happened to have that. I didn't realise it happened to have the game on, so I had to sit there and have a pint and watch it. My God, what a game! What an absolute brilliant game it was. And that is what we want. That is what we're bringing. And I just got a feeling that there's a little bit of that coming into our team.
Yeah, it's better. It had everything that it needed to be a good game. So Newcastle had to be good. Manchester City had to be slightly off colour. And Haaland obviously missed a few chances where on another day he'd bury it. But he really he's got that thing of that great striker, hasn't he?
Yes.
That every time he goes to shoot, he thinks he's going to score.
And do you not feel that Jesus is like that, though?
No.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I do.
Do you? Why do you think not, Luke?
Jesus was in a team where goals were a thing. Like, he was part of a team where, it was kind of like a no-brainer that Man City would have a final outcome on what they do in a passing matter. Like,
they get put out on the left.
Yeah,
I get it.
I get what you mean.
I know what you mean. He didn't look as comfortable in the City shirt and what he does in an Arsenal shirt. I think some players just need a bit of love, and they just need to be put in a position that they want to be in.
Well, yeah, and he's come out and said he feels like he can play freely. He's not dictated to a certain criteria which Pep wants. Arteta's kind of going, go on, then you do you, because I know what potential you've got.
Well, I think you're seeing that from Zinchenko as well.
Yeah.
I think that's, what I was saying earlier about, players playing without fear, and how happy it makes them. And if it makes them happy, then they play better. And it's just, don't get me wrong. Arsenal will get, at some point this season, Arsenal will get a spanking because it just won't work one night.
Let's hold that. I want to talk about the next game in a sec, but I'm going to go back and have a look at the stats for Xhaka, because I genuinely believe that he has upped his game. Just another, and remind me, guys and girls. So for next week, I'm going to do a stack of Shaq stat.
Oh, also, just quickly before I forget as well, something that seemed to go by the wayside and nobody noticed. It was Saka's 100th Premier League appearance.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
For such a young age.
He's
100 Premier League games.
Wow.
It's mad.
However, what we're seeing is a freedom of play. We're seeing confidence in there. And I just think it was, everyone was saying, oh, you're Bournemouth for this and Bournemouth for that. I just thought it was a really, really good game. I think the game that we've got coming up against Fulham is one that a lot of fans are underestimating. And I think is actually going to be one of our dangerous games that we're going to have, to be honest with you, looking at the way it's going. So that's obviously coming up next. What we thinking?
Well, I think Gabriel will be the one that's put on Mitrovic, and Saliba is working more as a sweeper, really, to be honest, and clearing up behind him. Looking at Fulham's last game, I think this team is almost made for Arsenal to play. I mean, they were playing at home, and Brentford had 13 shots.
That's true. 3 disallowed goals for what's his name? For Ivan Toney.
Yeah. See, and also, I just looking at the stats of Arsenal at the weekend away from home, 601 successful passes in all. Right,
600 passes successful.
Yeah, and Fulham had 260. They're at home.
Wow. Okay.
And Mitrovic right at the end, but basically, Pereira was the man of the match in that game. Now, if Partey and Jack are between them, depending on who is back and who is going forward as that sort of number 8 surging, as long as Pereira is kept quiet, then he can't feed Mitrovic, because a lot of Fulham stuff, 21 crosses, 59 long balls. That's how they play. They know Mitrovic's a big guy. He's difficult to deal with. If they keep Pereira and Mitrovic quiet, I don't think there's a lot to worry about. I think if Arsenal get an early goal, Fulham will go to pieces. My prediction last night was 5-0.
5-0 against.
I think Arsenal will destroy them.
Well, I'd like to think I'm going to be there, so I'd like to. I hope that's the case. I'm not fair. I think it'd be a bit closer than you're thinking. I'm thinking probably 3-2.
I think
if this was last year, I'd agree with you. But I'm looking at, like I say, a more mentally strong side that is not going to be bullied.
What do you think?
I'm looking at. I don't think we're looking at a 5-0. I don't think we're looking at like a demolishing game. But I'm looking at a formation which Fulham played against Brentford, and they play a 4-2-3-1. So what that means in regards to how Arteta plays, which is he technically plays a 3-5-2, if you like, in attack. Because Zinchenko runs really.
So he's played this same formation for all 3 of our games. But go on, mate.
Yeah, but Zinchenko will join in, which means Gabriel and everyone will tuck in and make it tighter, giving Zinchenko that free space to play up. Anyway, given reason that we got Arsenal go on attack, you have 2 CDMs plus a back 4 to break. Fulham aren't stupid. Scott Parker as a manager is not stupid. He'll sit behind the ball for as long as you need to and come and attack us. And then you've got to worry about the break. You've got Mitrovic, who is a challenging striker. He's a very, very talented forward, considering, he's not the best of clubs, is he? But he makes it work. He's a strong... He's a bully.
You think so? He hasn't proved himself in the Premiership before, though, has he?
Well, he's doing all right so far in this current campaign. He's scored. I think he scored 3 and 3. Someone's just brought up a good point, saying Fulham's. I mean, this is like combating my stats. Saying Fulham scored as many goals as us with a third less passes. Now, obviously, stats can say whatever you want them to, so I do appreciate that. But what I would say is that Fulham also conceded 2 goals from terrible defending. And Brentford conceded 3 goals from some truly dreadful defending. So I do understand your point, but I'd say that if you're looking at the 2 teams and who's playing the purer football at the moment, it'll all come down to the first 10 minutes. If Arsenal score in the first 10 minutes, I think they will fold. They will fold quite badly. Arsenal are not getting bullied in the same manner as which teams exactly like this were exactly the sort of side where they might put everyone behind the ball at the Emirates and we just watch as to try to break them down for 90 minutes and it'd be painful. I will never get that time back.
That Burnley game.
I stood next to you at the Emirates just going, I'll never get this time back. It was horrible. It was truly toothless. We're not watching the same side anymore. It's a different side that seems to find ways to break teams down, whether it be tactically or whether it be by somebody turning on a little bit of flair, which they're allowed to do, as we discussed their previous clubs they weren't.
Love it, but that's and that's all part and parcel of being a fan. We will have we'll have that dip. That's going to happen, right? In the season, it's how we actually get through to the other side. So I think it's going to be a lot closer. I genuinely think. I don't think it'll be a whitewash. I do think we'll be too strong for them, and I do think we'll ignore their overtures, and I do think we'll actually fight our way through whatever it is they throw at us. And I just know our fans are going to be absolutely killing it. Absolutely killing it. We'll be 60,000 screaming voices.
So what's your prediction, Steve?
3-2. I think 3-2. Yeah, to us.
Okay, Luke?
I'd probably go 3-1.
Okay. All right, well, On that note, given things of days gone by and Saliba and us being waxy lyrical about him, I wanted to have a look at some of the other people we got out on the road at the moment. So one of my first people we're going to come to, basically I'm only going for people that are a threat to first team if we were to bring them back. And we want to keep an eye on basically these players that are, like with Saliba, went out, did a great job, and if we'd all been keeping an eye on him, maybe some of what's going on this year wouldn't have been such a surprise. So, first person to come to is Pablo Mari at Monza. Monza's in Serie A, which actually, on the note of Italian fine things out there, what's Steve got in his bottle today?
So Steve is I'm rocking a very cheeky little Shiraz this evening, going down, bursting with red fruit, ripe plum flavors, and just a little hint of spice.
Well, going down is the right phrase because from what I can see, Monza are terrible. They are bottom of Serie A. The last game that Mari played in, Torino lost 2-1 and he got booked after 61 minutes. The last game that they played, they lost 4-0 to Napoli, which Mari's not playing. He's got a muscular injury, so he's currently out injured. They've got an obligation to buy if Monza avoid relegation, which by the looks of it, if this is the way it's going to be.
It's very similar to Mustafi, who, when he went back to Germany in the first 6 months, was voted the worst player of the year.
Yeah, you know what? I don't really like stuff like that.
I don't Mustafi. No,
but I don't like votes like that. It's just kind of, it's not really a measurable thing. He's not doing well. Fine, don't keep him. I mean, this one here, Pablo Mari is not to blame for what's happening at Monza. They've got a guy in charge there, a guy called Giovanni Stroppa. I don't know if you remember him. He used to play for Milan and Lazio in the 90s. He was actually a really good player. But guess who their owner is?
Oh, no, please.
Silvio Berlusconi.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Someone's just come in. Berlusconi has to spend big to keep Monza up, and they tried for Icardi, but it didn't work out. Well, I mean, I bet Icardi is thanking his lucky stars because they do look seriously dreadful. So at the end of each one of these, now don't expect this obviously to be what you'll hold your hat on till the end of the season, but I will give you a buy or sell. I mean, buy or be keep, obviously, but buy or sell Pablo Mari.
I don't let the door hit you on the backside on the way out. Gone.
Okay.
Would you reckon, Luke? Pablo Mari, you've watched him a couple of times. The fact you've got to think about it means sell.
Yeah.
We want to hope basically that Monza stay up because then they've got an obligation to buy and get him off the books. Okay, next one.
Should we do a Monza update every week for everybody? See where they are.
Well, I'm going to try and keep up to date with what's going on with these loanees because I think it's wise for us to know what's going on. So, the next one we got is Folarin Balogun at Reims.
Oh, bless yeah.
Yeah, the manager they got there, I don't know if you remember him, Oscar Garcia. He managed at Brighton and Watford at one point. So Balogun has had 3 matches, 2 starting, 1 as a sub, 3 goals.
Yeah.
He's had 8 shots, 5 on target, 28 passes, 21 completed, which is a pretty good stat. And it's 1-1 with Strasbourg where he scored, 4-1 loss to Marseille where he scored, and a 4-2 loss to Chermont Foot, which sounds like something you would have got in the trenches in World War One. But he scored in that game as well. So he actually sounds like he's doing all right there. Reims aren't by any measure going to be setting the world alight, but he does seem to be doing all right there, and he seems to be scoring goals. Now they brought in a player. They sold a player at the end of last year because Oscar Garcia is well known for sort of touting young talent. and they sold him to PSG
Yeah.
at the start of this year for 30 million. So they've been left with a big hole where they need someone to score goals, and hence why they brought Balogun in. So, I mean, I'm on the fence about him. I think currently, as it stands, I wouldn't be bringing him back to buy. I'd be looking at selling if possible, but I would also I'd sit on the fence about it. I think there's a possibility, if given the responsibility here at this Reims club, that maybe we'll see something a little bit better from him. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm of the opinion. Look, Emil Smith Rowe went out 3 times on loan. Okay, first couple of loans didn't do particularly well. I think there's a good striker in Balogun. Genuinely do, and I genuinely think he's better than Eddie Nketiah. Whether he's ready for the Premiership yet, I don't know. For me, we keep him. We keep him for sure. But leave him on loan. Let him do his thing. He's doing absolutely brilliant. Apparently, he's scored more goals than Messi.
Yeah.
Yeah, which well, it's not difficult, really. Come on.
Wow.
So it's not the Messi of old. But I just I see Balogun. We've got another star in the making here, and I think that as Eddie progresses through his contract, as Eddie progresses through his sort of career at Arsenal, I think Balogun's going to come up and be nipping on his heels. If I'm honest with you,
I think time will tell, but I'm not 100% convinced right now. But time will tell. He's time's ticking on for him. In the messages we've got somebody agrees. Cliff Soccerzone sell with Pablo Mari, so we're all in agreement there. Balogun is going to get a lot of chances since they sold their main striker Ekitike. I think I don't know how to pronounce that, to Paris Saint-Germain. As I was saying, Balogun probably will be loaned to Marseille or another French club if he does well at Reims. Yeah. True. So probably not the end of the line for Balogun, but I think one to keep an eye on. But if we've got to, obviously, as we know, with things in this day and age, if you've got to free up some money on the wages on the books, then sometimes you've got to lose some of these players. But let's see how he gets on. Okay, next up, Nuno Tavares, Marseille, under Igor Tudor, who is a Croatian manager. He's had 3 games, 112 passes, 91 completed, so that's 81%. That's pretty good. 10 tackles, 7 successful, so very good. 5 fouls, and the games he's competed in is a 2-1 win versus Nantes, 1-1 against Brest, where he scored after 38 minutes, and a 4-1 win over Reims, where he scored as well. Just quickly, isn't Balogun the first Reims player to score in the opening 3 games in like 40 years or something? That is absolutely true. That is good stuff there. Yep. So yeah, he is doing well. I'm not doubting that, but let's see how it goes. So Nuno Tavares, by all accounts, is doing very, very well. I know that you and I have talked about Tavares before, and we don't think he'll come back.
No, would you reckon Tavares is going to come back? I can't see it.
He's not. Mate, he could barely string a pass in Arsenal team. He costed a lot of points for Arsenal when he did play. You got people like Cedric Suarez who come on the bench and make a difference. And, when Tavares come on, he made no difference. He made it actually worse.
It made me nervous.
But how much responsibility has to be taken that he's being played out of his depth at a stage of his career when he's not there yet? I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I don't think he'll wear an Arsenal shirt again, and I think Marseille is probably a decent fit for him. And if he can be sold off at a decent price and Marseille like him, great. But I just think sometimes some players are put in a position they shouldn't be in.
Ultimately, you want to see the kid happy, and it's one of that all or nothing thing actually showed. It's just how unhappy he was, and genuinely, I feel for the kid. He's a young child, like he's a kid, first time away from home. So I wish him the best of luck. He ain't wearing an Arsenal shirt again, mate. I'm really sorry.
Okay, so make a call, buy or sell.
Out the door. Do a Mari on him.
Okay,
Don't send him to Monza. Let's not send him to Monza.
He's going, mate.
Right. Okay. I'm going to reserve judgment for the second, but if I was forced to call it now, I'd say probably Probably sell. What we've got here, Nuno might have to transition to a winger.
Agreed.
That's true. That's true. I don't think he's a very reliable defensive unit. I think he could do better as a more attacking player. He's strong. He's fast. There ain't no doubt about that. But his level of coolness at the back, had a lot to be desired. Okay,
someone that should be like Conte. You know, he had Alonso. You know, he was slow, but he was good. But Tavares is the opposite. He's fast. But I think he'd work underneath Conte. Something like Conte with Chelsea the day.
What,
different style of football.
Behave yourself.
Like a left wing back. I think he'd work well underneath that.
I think I can see what Luke's saying in sort of a manager that plays in that sort of style. But I mean, I just think he might not be good enough to play in this league.
Yeah. But whatever. I wish him the best of luck wherever he is because I genuinely, he's a great kid.
Okay, that brings us on to, and here's one for Cliff Soccer Zone. Austin Trusty at Birmingham City under John Eustace. Okay, so Birmingham aren't having a great time of it. That much is true. They have got 2 losses, 1 win, 3 draws. One of them is a League Cup game. He's had 2 yellow cards, and the last game he played in was a 1-0 loss to 10-man Wigan at home. So that's not a great stat. However, he has played every minute of every game. He is actually, by all accounts, one of their best players and is in no way any fault for any of what's happening to them right now. I don't know if you know a little bit about what's been happening with Birmingham City, but they have had financial troubles and ownership troubles for quite some time at the moment. And it's, in that particular department, things are not well. But that's of no detriment to this guy. He looks a player. He really does. He is he's a defensive unit. He's also very good at sort of like getting forward. He's a good player. I think we'll see more from him. And I would say have him out of Birmingham for a bit longer. See how he gets on around about Christmas time. Might be worth loaning him out to somewhere that's not quite so bleak. Because Birmingham look like they've got an impossible task ahead of them. Loaning him out somewhere where he might be able to enjoy his football a little bit. But there's also nothing wrong with, showing these players the tougher side of football.
I was just going to say, is it not character building? Something like that, going in there, building that character, But so, I feel sorry for the bloke coming all the way from America to end up in Birmingham, for God's sake. Like, seriously?
Yeah, I think he's from Pittsburgh.
Is it? Oh, okay. There's no difference between the two then.
Cliff Soccer Zone might be able to correct me on that. It's just Trusty making Birmingham City fans do USA chants. Fair play to him. Fair play. It sounds like he's doing well. It sounds like he's popular there, and gives him a bit of cheer when things are not going so well there at the moment. So, yeah, sounds like he's doing all right. Worth keeping an eye on, definitely.
Excellent. So, we're coming up to the top of the hour, mate.
We are. One more player, which is Harrison Thomas Clark.
Oh, okay. How's Tom doing?
Well, he's under Michael O'Neill at Stoke City. He scored 1 goal. He's had 2 appearances in the Championship and 1 in the League Cup. He's not getting much game time there, and it's not going particularly brilliantly at Stoke City at the moment. Anyway, I don't think that they've started the season particularly well. Right. But again, he's another one worth keeping an eye on. I think he might be one of them players that, just due to time, just get him off the books. He might find a better,
or sell him at a profit. Sell him at a profit, or hopefully, let's hope he becomes amazing. And don't forget, Serge Gnabry was felt. I can't remember who it was. It was it West Brom when they turned around and said he's a bit rubbish, that bloke. So that was Pulis, wasn't it? Was it Pulis that said that?
Was it Pulis? Yeah, I think it might have been.
It was some village idiot anyway at West Brom. It turned around and said Gnabry was a bit rubbish. So let's just wait and see. Let's wait and see how it goes.
It's so we're coming near the top of the hour. So how do you want to finish up, Steve?
Didn't you have just a couple of little cheeky questions you was going to share with the panel?
I did, but a lot of them come from on this day. So I will just go for one of them, which is on this day, on the 23rd of August, 1986, Arsenal 1, Manchester United 0. George Graham started his career as Arsenal manager. And that started what was a very important period of Arsenal's history. Given whatever people think of George Graham, what Arsenal was then transformed into then was the conduit for the next transformation as far as what Arsene Wenger inherited. I want to ask you what kind of things you remember about George Graham.
So I think there's two or three things, aren't they? You know, when we look in football, I think, as you say, transformational is a really great way and a great word and thing to look at. You know, something that what Arsene Wenger brought to actually the Premiership, something totally and utterly new and hadn't ever been seen before. And Pep Guardiola is the next one that sort of taken over that mantle once Wenger kind of went. But George Graham was very successful. He built, we talk about he built a sort of the foundation for something to actually start a revolution in football, and it's very rare that happens. And we look at the petrodollar that's kind of come into football now, and the oligarchs and the way that's kind of gone. But George actually underpinned quite a lot, and you gave me some interesting stats as we sort of went through. So I always remember him being really dapper, like really dressed really well all the time, very aggressive, and I think he got. I don't think he got the credit that he deserved for the work that he did for Arsenal Football Club. Some amazing players that he brought in. And it was Arsene Wenger. You talk about that next level. When we talk about that pass, that way that that when we talked about Odegaard when he first came, some of the things that we'll chat about is Odegaard was passing the ball and everybody was like a foot behind because they didn't quite get where he was. But George Graham was kind of like the Odegaard where he brought that pace, that intelligence, that framework into the team, and then Wenger came in and turned it into that Rolls Royce. He got the rest of it. He got the motor working. So I think George deserves a lot of respect for who he was, for what he is. And for where he's gone, within there. So for me, it's a transformational time for Arsenal that put us on an amazing trajectory moving forward. And a lot of that's down to George Graham. And I think as fans, we do not respect that enough, I believe.
Yeah.
That's my view.
I agree. I think there's some things that need to be remembered about George Graham. I know, obviously, he divides opinion with some Arsenal fans because he obviously went to the enemy and managed them for some time. But what needs to be remembered is that George Graham played for Arsenal at a time when this rivalry wasn't the one of hatred that we know today.
Yeah.
George Graham and Terry Venables were best friends. They were best man at each other's wedding. When one played for Arsenal and one played for Tottenham. When George Graham retired, when the last team he played for was California Surf, as was the way in the 70s.
Sounds great.
He retired in 78, and the first thing he did was he went and worked on Terry Venables' coaching team at Crystal Palace, and then went on to work at Venables' coaching team at QPR. And the small margins that could change the moments in history forever. So when George Graham got his first individual job, it was at Millwall from 82 to 86. Now, in 86, at the end of the season, Arsenal's longtime manager, Don Howe, he quit. Now, Arsenal were looking for a manager. Now, the manager they wanted was Alex Ferguson, and they wanted George Graham as his assistant. Now, at the time, Alex Ferguson was at Aberdeen. Yeah. Now, he was also in charge of Scotland in the World Cup in 1986 in Mexico because Jock Stein had died of a heart attack earlier that year.
Oh, I didn't realise that.
Yeah, so Alex Ferguson wanted to see out the World Cup and then make decisions about where and what he would do. George Graham, who didn't even go for the job, he was approached about it and he didn't wait. He took the job and the rest is history. And in that year, bear in mind, in 87, when they won the League Cup against a Liverpool side 2-1, Arsenal had not won a trophy for 8 years since Alan Sunderland scored the winner against United in the FA Cup final in 79. Now, that was a big deal for Arsenal. You know, it's still a big club. And to bring a trophy in when they hadn't had anything for such a dry period was a big deal. They also beat Liverpool, who was seemingly undefeatable at that time. And it was also the first time ever in Liverpool's history at that point that in a game where Ian Rush scored, Liverpool lost the game.
Wow.
Yeah. So they won what was then the Littlewoods Cup. We then know that they went on to win in 1989 against Liverpool in Anfield with Michael Thomas. It's up for grabs now, and we all know the story about that. And that's the one that gets remembered. But I don't think it should be, because 91, when they win the league again, is one of the most imperious league campaigns in the history of club football. Yeah. They only lost one game to Chelsea. One game in that entire season. Now, I know the Invincibles are obviously held aloft, and so they should be. But to lose one game in that day and age was such a big deal.
Yeah,
champions used to lose 4 or 5 or 6 games. It wasn't unusual. To lose one game in that day and age is quite phenomenal. They also only lost the FA Cup semi-final by a whisker. You know, they were nearly very much in a position to be taking the double. He also, at that point, in 92-93, wins the League Cup and the FA Cup in the same season, beating Sheffield Wednesday in both finals. The second one going to a replay back in the days when there were replays. And that took them to a point where they would qualify for the Cup Winners' Cup. And that following year, Arsenal won the Cup Winners' Cup by beating Parma in the final, and he still stands as the only Arsenal manager to win a European trophy. So, for me, Arsenal owe George Graham a debt of gratitude.
I believe so. And you know, and that's sort of part of this great club's history. So, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank all the Twitterati. I want to thank all the people that are on the podcast. I want to thank everybody that's been asking questions. Cliff, Mark, you know, all the guys from Over and Over Again. Don't forget, there's always a little bit of an Arsenal snippet from Over and Over Again network every day. There's something Arsenal every day from us. And, you know, to all the fans, you know, you're really important. You are the heartbeat and blood that drives, you know, in the veins of this club and this amazing club and all the history that goes with it. And so, for respect for each other and everything that goes with it, I want to thank you all individually for you know, listening to the three of us sort of prattle on about Arsenal, the club that we kind of love. And sort of Luke kind of loves us, but he's a Chelsea fan, but he's okay. We'll let him off. Please, you know, if you do see me at the stadium, be nice. Just come and have a chat. You know, we'll happily go through it all. And again, Jamie O'Hara, if you got the man apples, just come on and talk to us. Come on, we're happy to have a little chat with you, take you through, find out your views.
He can't use a computer.
He can.
I wouldn't trust him to open a tin of beans.
Oh, come on. It's Jamie here. You know, he's good. He's got a good thing. So I want to thank everybody. Absolutely brilliant. Can't wait to next week. Get in the Arsenal. North London, once again, the sun's going to be shining. We're going to be winning. Absolutely cannot wait. Thank you very much, everybody. See you next week.